Topics in the following podcast contain graphic content. Viewer discretion is advised.
Moments before the crash, one of the girls called her father to say something was wrong with her aunt. It was a message relayed to 911.
I have a family here that thinks that they might have a medical emergency of their sister. There's 3 kids in the car. 5. They're trying to locate her.
The girls just called in distress. They said that the aunt is driving very erratically. We think she's sick, and we're trying to locate the kids. They're at a rest center. The best they can understand is that they were in Tarrytown or Sleepy Hollow. Those were the signs that they saw. The aunt isn't picking up the cell phone right now.
The vehicle was completely engulfed with a woman that was burning.
Were the other people thrown from the vehicle?
Yeah, several people were ejected, most of them children.
Welcome to J is for Justice podcast. If live breaking news and following true crime is your thing, then please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you like what you see in my videos, please consider giving them a thumbs up.
This afternoon at approximately 1:35 p.m., we had a tragic 3-car accident on a Taconic Parkway. Evidence leads us to believe that a vehicle was traveling the wrong way southbound in the northbound lanes of traffic. Unfortunately, 5 of those occupants are deceased. There were 3 occupants of the vehicle traveling northbound, which struck the southbound vehicle head-on. All 3 of those occupants are deceased.
It was a Sunday morning at Hunter Lake Campground in Parksville, New York, when Diane Schuler was getting her 2 children and her 3 nieces ready to leave the campground. Her husband Daniel and herself had their coffee and left the campground at about 9:30 a.m. Diane had all the kids in the 2003 Ford Windstar that belonged to her brother. So after Diane left the campground with the kids on her way to West Babylon, she stopped at a McDonald's to get the kids breakfast. From there, she went to a Sunoco gas station in Liberty, New York. While at the gas station, on surveillance video with no sound, it was reported that she attempted to buy some type of over-the-counter pain relief medication, possibly for a painful tooth, but the gas station did not sell any. Diane left Liberty, New York just after 11 a.m., traveling along Route 17, Interstate 86, and the New York Thruway, Interstate 87, and crossing the Tappan Zee Bridge, heading east. Several witnesses later reported seeing a red minivan driving aggressively on Route 17, including aggressively tailgating, flashing headlights, honking the horn, moving in and out of lanes, and straddling 2 lanes. At 11:37 a.m., Diane Schuler called Warren Hance, her brother and father of her 3 nieces, from the van. She reportedly told him that they were being delayed by traffic. According to a police report, Diane was seen by witnesses at approximately 11:45 a.m. by the side of the road with her hands on her knees as if she were vomiting. And then she was seen again in the same position a short time later, north of the Ramapo-Sloatsburg rest stop. At about 1 p.m., another call was made to Hance from Diane's cell phone. During the call, one of her nieces reportedly told her father that Schuler was having trouble seeing and speaking clearly. Schuler herself then talked to Hance and said that she was disoriented and could not see clearly. Police believe that the car was stopped in a pull-off area beyond the Tappan Zee Bridge toll booths for at least part of this call. Hance reportedly told Schuler to stay off the road while he came to meet them. Follow-up calls from Hance to Diane were not answered. For some reason, she left her cell phone on the highway. It was found by another motorist on the side of the road near a toll booth. Investigators have not determined what route Schuler took from the bridge to the Taconic State Parkway ramps near Briarcliff Manor. At 1:33 p.m., two drivers called 911 after noticing Schuler's van edging onto the northbound exit ramp of the Taconic State Parkway near Briarcliff Manor. The end of the exit ramp at the intersection with Pleasantville Road is marked with two signs that read, "Do not enter," and two signs that read, "One way." Within the next minute, 4 more 911 calls were placed by motorists who reported that a car was traveling the wrong way down the parkway, going approximately 75 to 85 miles per hour.
State Police, 911. State Police, you got on the northbound Taconic. There's a minivan in the right lane going southbound.
911.
Hi, I'm at the Taconic Expressway. We just passed 100 exit 100 feet. There's a car going like 70 miles an hour the wrong direction.
911.
Yeah, you got a guy driving south on the northbound Taconic Parkway. Ooh, right on. I was in the left lane. Just Pleasantville Road. He's going like about out of hell. He should be already on the same parkway right now. It's a minivan.
State Police, 911. Where's your emergency?
The van traveled south, going the wrong way for almost 2 miles in the northbound passing lane before colliding head-on at approximately 1:35 p.m. with a 2004 Chevy Trailblazer, which then struck a 2002 Chevy Tracker. At the time of impact, Diane was traveling approximately 85 miles per hour. Diane, her daughter, and 2 of her nieces were dead at the scene of the crash, along with the 3 men in the Trailblazer, 81-year-old Michael Bastardi, his 49-year-old son Guy, and their friend 74-year-old Dan Longo. The 2 occupants of the Tracker suffered only minor injuries. Diane's severely injured third niece and Schuler's 5-year-old son, Brian, were taken to area hospitals, where the niece died later that day. Brian is the only passenger of Diane's vehicle to survive. He suffered from broken bones and severe head trauma. He remained hospitalized before returning home a few months later. 2 men who witnessed the accident and saw smoke rising out of the van ran to assist the occupants. After removing Diane from the van, 2 men saw a large broken Absolute vodka bottle by the driver's side. The men tried to pull the girls out of the van and noticed that they had no pulse. Because the children possibly were not seatbelted in and thrown together, the men did not even notice Brian stuck underneath another child. Brian was the only survivor of the accident. The investigation of the collision drew nationwide attention, as Diane's husband strongly disagreed with the conclusion that she was heavily intoxicated at the time of the crash. A toxicology report released on August the 4th by Westchester County medical examiners found that Schuler had a blood alcohol content of 0.19%. with approximately 6 grams of alcohol in her stomach that had not yet been absorbed in her blood. The legal blood alcohol content for driving while intoxicated in New York is 0.08. The report also said that Diane had high levels of THC, the active ingredient in marijuana, in her system. She could have smoked marijuana as recently as 15 minutes before the accident. Days later, on August the 8th, Daniel Schuler gave a press conference with his attorney, Dominic Barbara, and denied that Diane did drugs or was drinking that weekend at the lake, since several children were with them. Daniel then changed the story and consistently denied that his wife ever drank to excess or could have been drunk while driving that day. Daniel did interviews on Larry King and Oprah Winfrey, and he was asked about the vodka in the van. And Daniel claimed that they always kept a bottle of vodka in their camper. He further stated that Diane did all the packing for the camping trip, so she must have moved the bottle into the van. Daniel eventually admitted that he and his wife had been drinking during the camping trip, but denied that Diane had anything to drink on the day preceding the crash. The campground co-owner, who knew Diane well, saw them off at approximately 9 a.m. that morning. She stated that Diane appeared sober. The gas station employee, whom Schuler asked for Tylenol at around 11 a.m., said, "I knew for a fact that she wasn't drunk when she came into the station." This is according to Tom Ruskin, an investigator hired by Daniel, and the rumor is that he paid approximately $30,000. And the family told People magazine none of the McDonald's employees saw anything in Schuler's behavior to suggest that she was intoxicated either. As an officer in the public security unit of the Nassau County Police Department, he was not required to report his wife's drug use, as he is a civilian. that he had interviewed relatives, none of whom had ever seen her in a drunken state. That she actually smoked marijuana on a regular basis. That showed an absence of organ damage often found in alcoholics due to a medical issue, such as a stroke. Said such results do not rule out alcoholism for much of her life and suffered from diabetes. That Diane was known to drink heavily or irresponsibly. Diane is only having gestational diabetes. He told investigators his wife smoked marijuana only occasionally. Pregnancy. Barbara has also mentioned an abscess that persisted in Diane's mouth for 7 weeks prior to her death. A lump in her leg had been done to determine Diane's drug history. Might have been an embolism. Neil and Barbara announced plans to exhume the body to perform the hair test and other examinations. Experts told them this was unlikely to produce any new information, since tests from 2 separate labs came up with exactly the same conclusion. Daniel also intended to retest the fluid samples taken during the autopsy. The Westchester County Medical Examiner's Office, which performed the autopsy, said that the degradation of the fluid over time was likely to result in lowered alcohol and THC readings. However, several toxicology experts said that the results should be similar to the previous test if the fluid samples had been properly stored. On November the 7th, Ruskin announced that the Schuler family had raised money to retest Schuler's tissue samples and that the retesting would take place soon. In July of 2010, it was reported that Daniel had accepted a $100,000 offer from a film company, Moxie Firecracker Films, to record his wife's exhumation for an HBO documentary. The money would reportedly be placed in trust for Brian, the Schuler's only living son. Daniel's persistence in disputing his wife's intoxication and drug use has been condemned by relatives of the 3 Trailblazer victims. Daniel's persistence in disputing his wife's intoxication and drug use has been condemned by the relatives of the 3 victims in the Trailblazer. When Daniel appeared on CNN's Larry King Live to demand more testing of his wife's remains, Longo's brother Joseph issued a statement, saying in part, quote, "I want Daniel Schuler to know that he keeps inflicting more pain on all concerned once again by going to the media to try to paint a picture of a perfect wife and mother." Bastardi's daughters appeared with their lawyer on NBC's Today Show, during which they questioned Daniel's culpability in enabling his wife's substance abuse and called for him to undergo drug testing himself. Bastardi's daughter, Margaret, said, quote, "It makes me angry that he keeps denying it. Every time he does it, he brings it back for us. I just wish he would just admit she was drunk. Maybe if he knows what happened that morning, if they argued or anything, that would be the truth. He wants the truth. So do we." Their lawyer called Daniel's position totally outrageous, an insult to the intelligence of the American public. Ruskin said on the Oprah Winfrey Show in October 2009 that Daniel had avoided media appearances since Larry King Live out of respect to the Bastardi family. In June of 2010, the New York State Police issued its final report on the accident. The report upheld the previous toxicology findings that Diane was highly intoxicated and had high levels of THC in her system at the time of the accident. According to a Westchester County medical examiner, the crash was ruled a homicide soon after it occurred because the victims were killed due to Schuler's negligent driving, regardless of toxicology findings. On August 18th, Westchester County District Attorney Janet DeFore said that no charges would be filed in the incident because Diane was the only person responsible for the deaths. She said, and I quote, "Diane Schuler died in the crash, and the charges died with her." On December 10th, the Bastardi family filed suit against Diane Schuler and her brother, Warren Hance, seeking unspecified damages. According to the family's lawyers, they were required by state law to include Hance in the suit. In July 2011, Jackie Hance, who lost her 3 daughters in the accident, filed suit against her brother-in-law, Daniel Schuler. The suit claimed that the 3 deceased Hance girls suffered terror, fear of impending death, extreme horror, fright, and mental anguish. On July 26, 2011, the day after the premiere of HBO's documentary, There's Something Wrong with Aunt Diane, and on the 2nd anniversary of the crash, Daniel sued the state for not, quote, keeping the road safe. And his brother-in-law, Warren Hance, as the owner of the minivan that Diane was driving. By July of 2014, all lawsuits by all parties were either settled or dropped. The judge sealed all of the settlements. The HBO documentary, There's Something Wrong with Aunt Diane, established a timeline of events prior to the accident. The documentary suggested that Schuler could have been suffering from severe pain caused by a tooth abscess during the drive home. They say this caused her to look for painkillers at the gas station and, upon failing to find any, self-medicating with drugs and alcohol. The pain of the abscess, combined with vodka and marijuana, could have put her in a temporary state of delirium that triggered her fatal behavior. In the documentary, Daniel and Barbara claim they gave Ruskin $30,000 to conduct an investigation and retest the samples. Throughout the documentary, Daniel and Jay Schuler, Diane's sister-in-law, claim that Ruskin was not returning their phone calls for 9 months. At the end of the documentary, Ruskin states that he had called her months ago with the results and that she refused to pick up her phone. She is seen claiming that, quote, she was told not to pick up and that, quote, she didn't understand any of it. Ruskin then informs her that his tests corroborated the previous tests, that Schuler was highly intoxicated from alcohol and marijuana. Schuler's family persisted in refusing to accept the test results even then. Jackie Hance, who lost her 3 daughters, wrote a book called I'll See You Again, in which the tragedy is revisited, focusing on her initial grief and the later reemergence into life. Stephen King's short story, Herman Wouk is Still Alive, in Bizarre Bad Dreams, written in 2015, is, according to Stephen King himself, a fictional attempt to find answers to questions about what led to the crash and, quote, perhaps to obtain some sort of closure, end quote. Jackie and Warren Hance also formed the Hance Family Foundation, whose main purpose is to honor the lives of their 3 daughters by ensuring healthy, happy, and safe children. It's always nice to see victims of a tragedy turn the bad into some sort of good.